Hi guys, welcome back onto the podcast. Magli here, and I want to be really transparent about something because it's like eating up inside me. I feel very nervous to be doing this episode for some reason. I think it's because this is season 2 of Mumming with Magli, and although I'm really excited, I think I've put quite a lot of pressure on myself to make this like a big season. There's loads of things that I would like to achieve with the podcast, but with that, I feel this inherent pressure to come across really professional. And as you can see, I'm in my daughter's bedroom. Oh my god, I really should have closed that drawer. Guys, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, whatever it is, if you're listening just with your earphones, hello. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, hello. The big thing this year is that I am putting the podcast out in different ways because I want to reach more people because life and motherhood is chaos. So, if this is your first time listening to an episode, welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you're back, if you listened to season 1 and you're back for season 2 because season 1 was oh so good, then welcome to you. Hi, Magli here. I feel like I have so much to say, but also I'm finding it a little bit difficult to know where to start. In full disclosure, I actually recorded this episode once already, but I'm struggling with my sense of self belief, I guess, and sense of confidence. It's such a fine line, especially with something like this podcast, which is something that I want to portray an honest account of motherhood, right? But I also want to come across somewhat like not necessarily that I know what I'm doing in terms of parenting and motherhood, but somewhat like a professional, right? Like, I don't know who the fuck is going to sponsor a podcast when I do it, like, here, but then also it would be completely just, not me if I hired a studio. Well, one, because I don't, I can't afford to hire a studio, and two, because this is just life. So, yeah, finding that balance for me has been really difficult. And also, the reason I'm re-recording, oh my god, the first episode is because I sort of want to, I guess, reintroduce myself in case some of you are coming here for the first time. So, hi, my name is Magli, and I started this podcast, just over a year ago because I suffered with quite severe postpartum depression and I was experiencing things that I just didn't even know were possible to feel and experience. And not only that, I just felt like no one was talking about it. I felt so alone. I felt such shame, such guilt, such resentment. And I guess I figured surely I can't be the only one, you know, feeling all of the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of parenting, and just also not parenting, not just parenting, but just life. Life is fucking hard. Oh my god, I made a huge mistake before recording this, and I ate some nuts because I was hungry, and then I was like, no, I can't eat a full meal because I'll just want to like digest. But before I record the podcast, so I just like, you know, ate a few nuts, which just sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. But I didn't have any snacks in the house. In the house, it's food shopping day, and I haven't been food shopping. I hate food shopping. Anyway, but now I'm so sorry. I feel like I have nuts in my teeth still. On YouTube, I hope you can't see me. Or can't see the nuts. I hope you can see me if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, this recording has just gone absolute haywire. So, hi. Season 2, episode 1. I have some really exciting guests in line for you this year. George and I actually recorded. George is my partner of almost 8 years, if you guys don't know me or him or the podcast. And we have a 2.5-year-old, Isla. She was born September 2021. And yeah, that's pretty much our setup. We live in Essex and I work. I really struggle to define my work because technically I work part time, but also I own my own business. I'm a yoga teacher, and I think that's also been something that I've struggled with. Um, throughout my postpartum depression because, as a yoga teacher, as a wellness expert, it's my, I guess, responsibility, like not really responsibility, but for lack of a better word, I encourage people to carve out time for themselves to love themselves through movement, through meditation, mindfulness practices. And I felt like such a fraud because for a while I just was not able to do that for myself. I didn't have the capacity, I didn't have the energy. Yeah, I was in a really, really dark, dark place. I started on antidepressants. I was going to say I'm very happy to say that I'm not on them anymore. And although I am, I also don't want for that to come across as if it's somehow a negative thing to be on antidepressants because it's not at all. And that's also something that I struggled with. I'm a wellness expert on antidepressants. Like, what the fuck? And I was just battling with those, really contradictory um, aspects of me, I guess. And yeah, I figuring out how they can coexist, but also how they can maybe balance each other out. And actually, I found that my depression, weirdly, and being on antidepressants and things like that, just that whole journey has really enabled me to be much more compassionate with other people. And I actually think that it's totally changed and helped my work and my business because, admittedly, at first, well, not at first, but I guess when I first got into yoga and well-being, I was like, oh yeah, you can just breathe yourself out of anything. Can you? Fuck. Honestly. Oh my god. No, 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 no. If you hear that anywhere, whether online or someone else tells you, and let me tell you now, I've been teaching yoga and teaching mindfulness and meditation, etc., movement. Sort of, I mean, you probably don't care because you're probably here for the motherhood side of things. um, but what I teach, I don't even know if I would call it yoga, as wanky as it's going to sound. It's healing through movement. Blech, vomit, but it's true. And although I really, really believe in it, 100%, it saved me from some really, really dark days. I do think that sometimes it's not enough, and sometimes you go so deep and so dark that you do need, a bit of external help. And for me, that was medication, as well as therapy, by the way. So, yeah, I guess that's a little background on me. So, George and we actually, this is the thing, I was so ready. I was like, yeah, January 2024. And although I'm not really pro that sort of pressure that we put on ourselves, there's a new year and you need to achieve XYZ and blah, blah, blah. I was actually feeling really good. I had weaned off my antidepressants and I was feeling really confident and I was just sort of riding the wave, the upward trajectory, I guess, of the wave. And the last half of January has felt shit. I'm not gonna lie. And I've started to question whether I made a mistake coming off my antidepressants. Um, I've not gone back on them, but yeah, I have a bad day, and I'm really grateful. George, to be fair, he's really supportive, not at all into the wanky well-being world like I am. But he's really supportive, and I remember once having a bad day and being like, "Oh my god, I should just take my pill," because I guess it had also become a bit of a safety blanket for me. Sort of. I don't know. I feel like if I took my antidepressant on that day, I can't really explain it. Maybe I just thought that I couldn't go any lower than a certain baseline. Um, so yeah, but he reminded me that even people who aren't antidepressants, like everyone has bad days. It's not because I'm off my antidepressants that, or sorry, I'm wording it wrong. My brain's just having a meltdown. Please hold, Paula. It's not because I'm on antidepressants that I can't have a bad day, right? And it's not because I've come off them and had a bad day that I need them all of a sudden. Anyway, I absolutely butchered that. It was meant to be a really like inspirational moment, but I fucked it. um, anyway, George and I recorded a episode of the podcast just after New Year and after Christmas, and we did like a sort of Christmas breakdown. So you're actually going to hear that next week, which I realize is probably going to feel a little bit strange, but here we are. I just, yeah, life got in the way, and yeah, that's it. I wanted to give more of a, not an excuse, but like, background, but that's all I have to say, really. I'm coming off the back of a solo parenting weekend, and it's been actually a major breakthrough for me in good. And don't get me wrong, we did have a few breakdowns. I'm still alive to tell the tale, so that's that. But what was really interesting is part of me, I feel bad saying this out loud, although I did share it on Instagram, and so many people responded to me and being like, "Oh my god, I feel the same." Well, mums, dads didn't respond saying that, and you'll hear why in a second. I kind of realized that George is pretty much redundant. And I mean that in the best way possible, because I did it. Like, solo parenting for a weekend. And I will say, I have solo parented before, but Isla was much younger. She wasn't yet, she was walking, but just about. Um, and whereas now she's like a full blown talking toddler, mummy, mummy, mummy. Oh my God, that fucking grates on me like you wouldn't fucking believe. Like, I literally, how do you teach patience to a toddler? Serious question. If you're listening to this, write in, find me on Instagram at magleyswift underscore, send me an email, hello@magleyswift.com. Please, 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 any insights? How do you teach your toddler patience? Because at the risk of sounding like the world's worst parent, sometimes I am able to do the thing that she wants immediately. But sometimes I'm like, should I give it to you immediately? Because I don't want you to grow up being a little shit, but also, like, if you want it now and I can give it to you now, why wouldn't I give it to you now? And it's not often that she wants something immediately and I'm literally unable to give it to her immediately. But then I'm worried that, this sense of instant gratification is just going to build in her brain. But I'm probably overthinking the situation, which is, story of my life, really, overthinking absolutely everything. But we are working on that. I guess another myth is that as a yoga teacher, wellness expert, however you want to label me, I don't even fucking know how to label myself, if I'm honest. Bit of a crisis identity, and not just because I've become a mum, because life in this modern world is hard. Who knew? Who knew? I didn't, which is why we're here, just trying to pose questions, send them out into the universe, and hopefully we might get some answers. What are your life's biggest questions? Let me know. Let's unpack them together. Um, what was I saying? I questioned myself. Lost my train of thought. I got off in a tangent. This is a problem, and this is what I did in the last episode. And I just felt like there was absolutely there was nothing. It was blah. It was a moot point. um, okay, hang on. I'm going to refer back to my notes because would you fucking believe it? I made notes. I'm hoping that this season is going to just be a little bit more. Oh, I don't like the word professional. Or it's not that I don't like it. Does anyone else, regardless of what your occupation is in life, regardless of the job that you do that gives you a financial reward, and I would like to, specify that because as a mum, you work harder than anyone else. It's just unfortunately, it's not seen as work really or a job because, you don't get paid a salary or per hour. Fuck me, imagine if you were paid per hour. Minimum wage, even if it was minimum wage, you'd make a fucking fortune if you were a parent. Oh my god, can we bring that into society? That would be fucking amazing. Um, Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Gosh, I am 15 minutes in and I've said everything. Surely I haven't said everything. Magdalene, gather yourself. I think I had so many. Right, I'm going to be fully transparent about what's going on in my brain. I had planned to organize sponsorships and ads for the podcast, as annoying as it would be for you guys to listen. At the end of the day, girls got to eat. And I work, like I was saying, again, I went off on a tangent, but I work 3 days a week, which is when Isla goes to childminding. And in those days, I work on my yoga platform that I have on my website. And excuse me, I work on the podcast and, I take care of the household. We have a dog, Magnus. I'm sure he'll make an appearance very soon. Um, and just life. I take care of my mental health, which for me, by the way, is a full time job in itself. Imagine also, we could get paid to take care of ourselves. How, like, where is the fucking time to take care of yourself, ourselves, oneself, everyone's self? And again, I say this as someone in the wellness industry. Like, it is so fucking hard. I was thinking yesterday, so I had Isla for the whole weekend, and it's one of those things where obviously, like, we did loads together, we went out for a walk, puzzles, watched a bit of TV, blah, blah, blah. But for me personally, for Magli as the human, not Magli the mum, I just felt like I hadn't achieved anything. And that's really difficult when you're a parent because, oh, but you did achieve something. You took care of your kid. And you're like, fuck off, And anyway, that's really difficult. The problem is that it is tiring to take care of your child. So then when you do have time for yourself to do whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's go for a run, and I'm saying that because I've decided this year I'm going to take up running, which is just fucking gross. But for me, it's more about building mental discipline in terms of doing something that is outside of my comfort zone rather than, I want to run. Maybe I should choose something else because running is really gross. If you have any ideas, let me know. But no, I think the reason I want to run is because it's a physical activity that you can literally do anywhere at any time, and all you need is a pair of trainers. So yeah, that's that. What was I saying? Yeah, you're tired from taking care of your kid, and then you have this day, but you're just exhausted. Like, and all of the things that you had hoped to achieve, all of a sudden you think to yourself, I barely have the energy to do them, work on them, let alone think about them. But you end up feeling worse about yourself if you don't do them, if you take time to yourself. Excuse me. If you take time for yourself and, just rest, read a book, like, you just feel shame about it. Um, so yeah, that's difficult. I, sorry, I'm taking a breath because I'm in a bit of a trough at the moment, if I'm honest, which is really frustrating because when obviously life isn't linear, blah, 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 blah. But when you are on a bit of a upwards trajectory, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat, it seems. When you're on an upward trajectory, it can get addictive, right? That high, that thrill of success, quote unquote, whatever that might mean for you. And to then feel like all of a sudden you don't necessarily plummet, but you just plateau a little bit. And that's how I feel at the moment. I feel like I'm in a little bit of a plateau, and to continue working through that is difficult. And I guess part of the reason of why I want to do something like take up running, and part of the reason why I still want to continue with the podcast, it occurred to me that maybe I should stop the podcast, and then I was like, no, this is the whole point. Like, continuing to build mental discipline, because motivation is fucking bollocks in my opinion. People who are like, oh yeah, just find the motivation to, but there is no motivation, especially when you have kids. Like, I'm sorry, my motivation died along with, I don't know, there's so much else that died when I became a mom. My brain. um, and I want to put in a disclaimer that I promise that the episodes aren't just like me hating on motherhood, but also I really want to hold space for all of the negative aspects of becoming a mom, of being a mom, because there's too much like, oh my God, I love my baby, blah, blah, blah. It's the most magical thing in the world. Like, yeah, obviously there's magical moments, but fuck me, the day to day is a fucking slog, okay? I don't want to see that, you're giving your child blueberries for a snack whilst you're out, I don't know, on a walk or rock climbing with them and just, I don't know, doing something that develops their mental something or other. Like, I'm sorry, my kid is eating crisps and watching Bluey whilst I have a mental breakdown. That is the dynamic in this household. Okay, I want to be really clear about that. If you're looking for hashtag mum inspo, I think you're in the wrong place. However, if you are looking for relatable mum stories, I hope that I can give that to you because it's been a bit of a journey. And I think also the reason I feel like I'm plateauing and the reason why part of me was like, should I stop the podcast is that there's something to be said for good feeling boring. And I guess to a certain extent, I felt like when I was depressed and opening it up about my, really, really dark days in postpartum depression, I guess somehow that was more inspirational than me sharing just a fucking daily slog, you know? And I guess now I'm self conscious and I'm trying to not let my demons cloud my judgment. I'm self conscious that people are going to find me boring, but I find mum stories really inspiring. And I guess your listeners, you are sort of my accountability buddy, in a way, because if I speak to you and tell you about things, I have to do it. And holding ourselves accountable for bettering ourselves, and I will explain why in a second why I've chosen that, um, is really, really difficult. It is so difficult. There's no like external pressure. And although external pressure is annoying, there's something to be said for it. When you're at work and you need to meet a deadline, like you have to meet it, right? Otherwise, you might get in trouble or you might get fired, etc., etc. But what are you going to do if you don't do something that you told yourself you were going to do? Like, like there's no. I mean, yes, the consequences obviously you probably beat yourself up for it mentally, but there's no like tangible consequence. Um, anyway, the reason I chose better yourself, in terms of like holding ourselves accountable for doing things is because, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like motherhood really makes you unpack your worldview and your belief in yourself and your own childhood. Fuck me, I've unpacked so much. That in itself could have sent me to therapy. Well, it sort of did, but that's for another time, guys. Because when you are left with minutes in a day to be with yourself, what do you do? And I think so many of us are like, oh, I wish I had more time for me. I wish, you know, I could change my physical body, whether lose weight, be a little bit more toned or whatever it might be. Maybe put on weight for some of us, because I say lose weight because personally, when I'm in an emotional state, I eat. I'm not saying personally I'm looking to lose weight, but um, oh, that's it. I'm sorry, my demons are telling me, Maggie, you shouldn't have dove into that topic. That's, you know, people are gonna cancel you, blah blah. Anyway, here we are. It just sometimes it feels like you can't fucking say anything nowadays. Do you know what I mean? Unless you're somehow an expert, in so and so, you can't have an opinion on it. Regardless, I feel like when you become a parent, you realize that you want to change certain things about yourself, and I think that's great if if that's what you want. But I also think it's so fucking hard because you literally have no time. So when you're left with, say, 10 minutes, what the fuck do you do in that 10 minutes? I had a point now and I've completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, this year, my word of the year is embrace. I want to embrace myself a little bit more. I want to try and break out of this cage that I've subconsciously built for myself, I guess, from fear of judgment. Um, as a human, as a mum, as a partner, as a friend, whatever it may be. And yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. When I put out this episode, is just embrace the chaos that it is, because otherwise you just don't fucking do anything with your life. And I think that for me has been the biggest challenge becoming a mom is that I had all these hopes and dreams and goals, and previously life had gotten in the way, but there's nothing bigger than a child to get in your way from achieving XYZ. And I don't want that to sound really negative, but it's true because being a mum is very time consuming. And obviously, dreams, goals, aspirations, whatever it is that you want to do, it's not that you can't do them, but there's a little big crying obstacle in your way. um, so, yeah. So, what am I doing? Guys, I've lost it. Honestly, I've lost I've lost the plot. I'm going delirious. George got back last night from his weekend away, and now I think my brain is just mush. And I don't know if it was a good idea that I did decide to re-record this podcast, but I think in a way it was because I didn't want to give just another piece of nut in my tooth. Oh, I'm sweating. Okay, I wanted to give more of a background and setup for me and the podcast, which I hadn't done in the first draft of this recording. Anyway, if there was one thing about yourself that you wanted to embrace more, what would it be? I'm going to leave you with that question because, yeah, that's my word of the year. I don't really set, obviously, I have, goals and things that I would like to do in 2024, um, but I don't really like to put too much pressure on myself. But I do set like an intention. I give myself a word of the year, and for me this year, the word is embrace. I want to embrace me and all that I am, everything that encompasses, yeah, and embrace the fact that I have a fucking place in the world, right? I have value, which makes me cringe when I say it, but I'm absolutely heartbroken at the thought that I know a lot of us struggle with self belief. We don't think very much of ourselves. We lack self worth. And that breaks my heart. That absolutely breaks my heart. And I guess, yeah, just want to tell you that you are worthy. And if you're a mom and you want to share your story, get in touch because your story has value. Your story is worthy. So if you feel called to share your ups and downs, trials and tribulations, everything that becoming a mom encompasses, if you want to share it on the podcast, please get in touch. I would love to hear from you. Yeah, I'm going to do a little shameless plug to anyone that wants to sponsor the podcast because, girls got to eat. I have some big plans, okay, this year. We are, guys, I'm going to tell you because you're my accountability buddy. We are going to make it onto a chart this year. I don't know what chart because I don't really know how those podcast chart things work. But we're going to make it onto a chart. It doesn't have to be high. I mean, don't get me wrong. If we make it to like number 2, 3, even like 15, that would be great. Although, as long as it's not like the world's worst podcast chart. So, yeah, okay. I love you all so, so much. I'm very grateful that you're here. If you've made it through episode 1 of season 2, thank you so much. We have some really exciting guests coming up. Some of them I've already recorded, some of them I'm yet to record with. Next week is George. Or last week I did a recording with Susie, who you'll hear about. I don't know, maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I haven't really decided on the order of things yet. But she talks about parenting with ADHD and parenting a child with ADHD, and also helping us understand the superpowers of ADHD, because I also think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding that it's just like a chaotic brain. It was so interesting, and it's made me wonder, or it's made me realize, I think that we're all on the spectrum of, you know, neurodiversity, and where on the spectrum we fall is, only we can know that. Well, not only. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, guys. Mwah! I love you lots. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It would mean the absolute world to me. I will see you next week. Ciao!